He doesn't just have a massive personal fortune, it's in tech. And in particular, he is involved in the data, everybody's data. Oracle is one of the biggest companies that hosts data. So this has national security implications, implications about privacy and surveillance, implications about national defense. He owns the Silicon Valley big tech company Oracle, which does data hosting for all of the biggest companies, and they're one of the biggest providers of that service. And he's a loyalist to Israel's prime minister.
This is not a joke. This is not an alarm. This is real deal, serious business that you need to wake up to. This has been a long time coming. AIPAC, pro-Israel lobbies. What do you think they've been pushing for all this time? What do you think? Is they just want to have influence? No, they want to have complete control. And it all starts with this, or it becomes part of this. This isn't even just the beginning. This is like almost end game now. And we just are now waking up. It's crazy.
And one of the figures that is leading the charge on this is Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison is one of the richest men in the world, net worth that is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. He owns the Silicon Valley big tech company Oracle, which does data hosting for all of the biggest companies, and they're one of the biggest providers of that service. Larry Ellison is a Jew. He's a secular Jew. He is a Jew that does not believe in religious Judaism. He's only Jewish ethnically. He was given up as a foster child. I believe he was raised by relatives, actually. He was adopted by a Jewish family in the south side of Chicago and did not have any Jewish religious beliefs and did not meet his birth mother until he was in his middle age. And yet his Jewish identity is incredibly powerful for him regardless. He's extremely pro-Israel. He's given tens of millions of dollars to the IDF, and he's a personal friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. As far as we know, this is the extent of their relationship. Larry Ellison offered Benjamin Netanyahu a position on the board of his company. Larry Ellison invited the Netanyahu family to vacation on his private island in Hawaii, where he personally hosted them. Larry Ellison tried to help Netanyahu out of a couple of legal and political problems. Netanyahu asked Ellison if he could buy a rival media publication in Israel that was criticizing Netanyahu. Netanyahu asked Ellison to intervene on his behalf to secure high-quality legal representation. Larry Ellison called up the Hollywood producer Arnon Milchan and asked him to fire his attorney, who's an Israeli Jew, so that Netanyahu could hire him. So these guys are like this. Larry Ellison is being questioned in Israel in connection with Netanyahu's many corruption cases because they have such a close working relationship. So Ellison is a Jew. He's a secular Jew, but he's deeply in love with Israel and has a very close personal relationship and professional relationship with Israel's prime minister. And he is one of the most powerful men in the world. He's not only one of the richest men in the world, but he owns one of the most important companies in the world. Understand, not all companies are created equal. He doesn't just have a massive personal fortune, it's in tech. And in particular, he is involved in the data, everybody's data. Oracle is one of the biggest companies that hosts data. So this has national security implications, implications about privacy and surveillance, implications about national defense. And he's a loyalist to Israel's prime minister.
Look, I've made videos on this. I've got plenty of content on Larry Ellison, crypto, Palantir, and how all of this stuff is coming together to create a one world controlled government. Okay. This is not a joke. This is not an alarm. This is real deal, serious business that you need to wake up to. You are asleep.
Now, in connection with Israel's problem that everyone's falling out of love with them, and their counter to this, which is to increase their market share over the media, Larry Ellison is flexing his political might with his money, as well as using his money too, to get the government to facilitate his acquisition of social media and conventional media companies. So, for example, the government banned TikTok. They said TikTok has all these national security problems and too much anti-Semitism, so China has to sell it to America. That's an act of government. The government intervened, Congress passed a law, and the president signed it, banning TikTok unless they sold it. Under the Trump administration, Trump facilitated the sale of TikTok with China directly as part of a broader trade deal.
Dude, the United States government or any government should not be involved in the buying and selling and manipulation of buying and selling of social media businesses. This is the bullshit we went through with Meta and Facebook and Instagram and X and why Elon bought X. What are they doing? Backstepping. Every time they make a forward step, they take 2 steps back. It's like they don't have us in mind, huh? They don't care.
And the trade deal is a comprehensive deal. It has to do with Taiwan. It has to do with soybeans. It has to do with Silicon Valley companies. It has to do with wafers and chips and all these different things. And as part of this bilateral comprehensive trade agreement and pursuant to an act of Congress, Trump is directly intervening to force China to sell their U.S. TikTok business to an American consortium. And Trump is giving that business to Larry Ellison. A newly created entity is taking a 45% stake in TikTok's U.S. business, and Larry Ellison is taking a major role in that. He's going to own a significant stake in that company, and he's going to take a major role in securing TikTok.
What do you think is going to happen? They're making us all put our information, our email address, our IP address, our face, our bank accounts. If you're getting paid on TikTok, everything is there. Do you really want a foreign government who's been implicated in countless, hundreds of assassinations? Go just look on Wikipedia. Hundreds, if not thousands, scroll endlessly on assassinations from this government. Is that the government you want controlling your metadata and all the stuff that you're doing privately? They can access your camera and all that bullshit? Is that what you want, huh? That's what we got now.
So consider, Israel's got this problem. Netanyahu is a close friend of Ellison. Ellison is a problem solver for Netanyahu. Ellison is one of these American Jewish oligarchs that works for Netanyahu, like many others. Netanyahu has a problem in Israel. He picks up the phone and he calls the loyal American Jewish billionaire Larry Ellison. And by the way, why is this dynamic so important? America's the biggest and most powerful country in the world. You can't amass a $300 billion fortune in Israel because Israel's economy is negligible, because their population is negligible. Israel doesn't have institutions like we have. They don't have companies, universities. They don't have a market like we have. They don't have capital like we have. So an American Jew is empowered in America, becoming one of the most powerful individuals on the planet, which you could not do in Israel, and then serves at the pleasure of Israel's government. You see? And he has power not just in the world, but also in America. His citizenship is extremely valuable. His ability to build an American company is what made him so rich. And he uses his citizenship, his ability to interface in the political process in America, his ability to tap into the American market and capital markets and other things to create this fortune to then serve Israel.
The guy's got full control. He's plugged into our government, Israel's government. He's plugged in, bro. It's game over. The guy is, oh my gosh, bro.
Israel has this problem. Netanyahu picks up the phone. Ellison answers. Ellison uses his connections through the Republican Party in American government to gain control over TikTok. And that's how Israel acquires a Chinese social platform that is all powerful in America. And what else do they do? Larry Ellison underwrites his son, David Ellison, his acquisition of Paramount Pictures, as well as potentially Warner Brothers. And now they will own all the media together. They will own TikTok, They will own CBS, TBS, HBO, HBO Max, Showtime, Nickelodeon, UFC streaming. They're going to own all this stuff. And they're going to use their ownership of all of it to help Israel. They already are. David Ellison is going to buy out Bari Weiss and her publication, The Free Press, going to give her a $100 million payday and just made her an executive at CBS. She is an Israeli spy. She was trained up by Yoram Hazony. She did internships in Israel with the Israeli military and Israeli government officials. She was mentored by Jews like Bret Stephens in America, Yoram Hazony in Israel. She is an Israeli spy. And she's going to run CBS. And she got a $100 million payday. They're using their fortune as secular Jews. Bari Weiss is a lesbian. She's got a wife. Larry Ellison's an atheist. They're using their fortune to help Israel for no reason other than they're Jews. Israel's a Jewish state. They're Jews. This is what they're doing. Well, we got another. So that's just a brief summary of what we've been talking about for the past couple weeks. Now there's another piece of the story. We have these leaked emails. Now that you know who Larry Ellison is, and these leaked emails show, we already knew that Larry Ellison was a major backer of Marco Rubio and his presidential campaign in 2015, when as a senator from Florida, he was running for the Republican nomination for president. You might remember this. And Larry Ellison gave him lots of money and backed him and said he believed he was pro-American and so on. Well, knowing now what we know about Ellison, it raises an interesting question. Why did Larry Ellison back Netanyahu? Or excuse me, why did Larry Ellison back Marco Rubio? Did he back Marco Rubio because he believes in Rubio's conservative ideology, because he believed in Rubio as a guy, or did it have something to do with Israel? And now we know for a fact that it did. According to leaked emails, Larry Ellison tapped Israel's ambassador to Germany to vet Marco Rubio. Okay? Go figure. So Larry Ellison calls up the current Israeli ambassador to Germany, works for the government of Israel, and says, hey, I need you to check out this sophomore senator. I think at that time he was a freshman senator from Florida, Marco Rubio. He's running for president. I want to see if he's worth supporting. The guy says, no problem. So they get together, they meet, and the guy calls up Larry Ellison and says, he's solid. You know what the first thing Larry Ellison asked about Rubio was after this vetting appointment by Israel's ambassador? He said, is he good on Israel? The guy said, yes, absolutely. And then the money poured in. This is the story. It says, quote, as the nation's top diplomat, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has also played a role in the TikTok talks that steered the company toward Larry Ellison after playing a lead role as a senator in demonizing the app. That Rubio finds himself in a central position thanks to Ellison, who was a major patron of the Cuban-American former senator from Florida. Ellison first vetted Rubio for his fealty toward Israel back in early 2015, according to previously unreported email correspondence reviewed by DropSite. In early 2015, Ellison was emailing Ron Prosor, who was at that time serving in the tail end of his time as Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. He currently serves as the Israeli ambassador to Germany. The emails show the Israeli diplomat and Ellison arranged to meet with one another, with Prosor soliciting Ellison's views on Rubio as a potential candidate who would advocate on behalf of Israel. On April 26, 2015, Prosor sent Ellison an email titled Rubio Speech, asking the Oracle founder and CTO to send him a copy of a speech from the then candidate. The next day, the two traded messages indicating that Prosor and Ellison had had dinner together, and Ellison would soon meet Rubio directly. He said, I had a great time, Ron. I'm looking forward to the next time. He added, I'll let you know how dinner goes with Senator Rubio. On April 30th, Prosor sent another message to Ellison to follow up, sharing his phone number, thanking him for the evening they spent together. He said, how was the conversation with Rubio? Did he pass your scrutiny? Did you have a chance to talk about Israel? Would love to chat. Ellison responded in the affirmative. Hi, Ron. Great meeting with Rubio. I set him up to meet with Tony Blair, adding, Rubio will be a great friend for Israel. A month later, Ellison hosted a fundraiser for Rubio at his mansion in California. That would be only the beginning of a broader range of support that the tech billionaire would offer in bolstering Rubio's campaign. Over the course of that primary, Ellison plowed $5 million into the Conservative Solutions Super PAC, which supported Rubio, who, as Ellison privately hoped, advocated vocally for Israel throughout the course of his presidential bid and beyond. Okay? That's how our system works. Now, people say that we're fixated on Israel, obsessed with Israel, preoccupied with Israel. I would argue that it's the most powerful people in America that are preoccupied. I'm a live streamer. Larry Ellison runs Oracle and is the second richest man in the world. He now owns TikTok. His son owns all the media. 10 years ago, Larry Ellison was grooming the current Secretary of State of the United States of America to see if he was sufficiently supportive of Israel. How did he go about grooming Rubio? He used Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. And once he verified that Rubio would be good for Israel, and once he set him up with Tony Blair, who we'll talk about in a minute, he then gave Rubio $5 million. And he and the Israel lobby have backed Rubio ever since. Now, Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State. But he's not just a Secretary of State. He is also the acting National Security Advisor after the previous National Security Advisor, Michael Waltz, was dismissed because he was too close to Netanyahu. Okay? So the National Security Advisor is the head of the National Security Council. They integrate the information from the Department of War, from the Department of State, from the National Intelligence Directorate, and they brief the president on national security and give him options for how the military should move. Rubio now runs that council as well as the State Department. And he was groomed 10 years ago by Larry Ellison and the Israeli ambassador to see if he's pro-Israel enough. Now, in his position as Secretary of State, what do you think Rubio is up to? Rubio is working with pro-Israel groups like Beitar and Canary Mission that flag Israel-critical protesters for deportation. Rubio is working with those groups that create lists, and Rubio is personally revoking those people's visas and deporting them to other countries. Rubio is advocating for intervention against Iran. Rubio is running the negotiation with Israel and Hamas.
Who's in the pocket? Tell me who's in the pocket in the comments down below. How much more of this do I have to show?
Rubio probably had a hand as Secretary of State in negotiating the sale of TikTok.
It's not what they say it is.
He is in the pocket of Larry Ellison and other pro-Israel donors who are allied with Bibi Netanyahu directly. And what Netanyahu wants, he gets. Netanyahu wants America to bomb Iran. Netanyahu wants America to expel all the critics of Israel and suppress criticism of Israel in America. And he wants pro-Israel forces to control our social platforms and our media ecosystem. Well, check, check, check. Ellison and Rubio have secured all of those objectives. What you might have missed is that in those emails, Larry Ellison said, I'm going to introduce Rubio to the former British Prime Minister, Tony Blair. Where has that name come up recently in the news? If you've never heard of Tony Blair. When President Trump and Netanyahu presented their 20-point plan for peace in Gaza on Monday, they said that Gaza would be governed by a technocratic council where Donald Trump would be the chair, and the only other individual named who would be on that council was Tony Blair. Donald Trump and Tony Blair are going to run Gaza. According to the peace plan created by Trump, his son-in-law Jared Kushner, and Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. This is the same guy that Larry Ellison introduced Rubio to 10 years ago. But it gets better. Larry Ellison gave the Tony Blair Foundation $350 million. And people that previously worked for the foundation said that Oracle and Tony Blair's nonprofit were inextricable. They were basically the same organization. The article goes on. It says Ellison has given or pledged more than $350 million to Blair's world-changing project, making him the largest donor and helping it to expand around the globe, according to a new investigation by the New Statesman and Lighthouse Reports.
I mean, is that not enough? The guy literally is running this world. They're giving him more and more power. And one thing I don't like, just because you made a lot of money or maybe you made some good financial decisions, why does that mean that all of a sudden you get to just run the world? That doesn't mean that you're the smartest person. Just because you made a lot of money and you are smart, that doesn't allow you to just become the overlord. And when did this become okay? Leave it in the comments down below if you see what I see. I'm not feeling all this, and it might be time to start pushing back. If that's how you feel, let me know in the comments down below.
On the beat. They call me Danks on Lock. Yeah. They call me Danks on Lock.